Welcome to Moving with Life. This is episode number 14. I am Andy Acosta. My friend Brian Luevanos will be joining me as well. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for lending us your ears for another episode. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to leave reviews. We are on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. So episode number 14 was very off the cuff. Eddie wasn't able to join us for this episode, so I had to plan accordingly to still provide valuable information for this episode. We did have my cousin on, my cousin Luis, who I always talk about and who I am trying to nurture to choose the right path as he progresses through high school and then goes into college or whatever he wants to do after high school. So, very much educational for me, and hopefully Luis got as much out of it as we did, and hopefully you listeners get something out of this as well. We talk about education, we talk about politics, some very interesting topics still came up through this hour and 20 minutes or so. So without further ado, here is Moving with Life. You thought what?
I thought this was going to be a professional podcast.
It's pretty professional.
It was at some point.
The topics are professional, but not the equipment.
Or the talkers.
hosts.
The hosts of the podcast. That's so funny.
Hey man, work hard, play hard.
Every day.
Oh, I said the talkers, right?
Huh?
Did I say the talkers?
You said the equipment.
Oh, the equipment. There you go.
Yeah.
Talkers.
I said it was my fault. I said
heard
talkers.
I thought I said talkers.
Yeah, I hear that all week. Taco Tuesday. It's Taco Tuesday every day now at the gym.
I haven't had tacos in a while.
I probably haven't had since whenever we went
Yeah.
to Bourbon Street. A few months ago.
Nah, we went once, but that place on Trenton, El Infiernito.
That's right. That was on the
But
weekend.
that was
That's right, because you were finishing the Go Giver. You're doing some Starbucks. We were at Starbucks, and I was
and then we went there after.
I was finishing something. I don't know what I was working. I was working on something. Freaking A. So we're here. It's Friday. Don't do that anymore. Because that's stuff I can't cut out.
You recording?
Yeah, we're recording already. So Eddie's out today because he's a busy man. Record release or single release, and then we have gigs tomorrow, so he has to do extra today with his teaching lessons and whatnot. So this is going to be very much improvised. At some point, me and Brian had started talking about using the Tools of Titans book written by novel written by Tim Ferriss of all these profiles of people around the world that he's interviewed and gotten information that he uses for himself and has now put it into a book for everybody to read. And what I've found is that it's kind of, if you listen to the podcast, it's basically what's there, and basically by writing this book he uses a different channel to reach more people. That's what I think about it as.
That the book is a different channel, like different as in just a different avenue, or it's different from his other channels.
Different avenue with the same
Okay.
information.
Yeah.
Because even when I brought up Derek Shivers, which we might touch base in a bit, I have some questions here that I'm actually going to ask Luis.
Okay.
So we have my cousin on as well. I'm going to ask him some questions that I actually asked some sixth graders this week when I was substituting, and it's no survey by any means. 'Cause I only got to ask 2 students that actually finished their work, so that's why I kind of like just pinpoint on them. I'm like, well, they finished their work. I don't want to distract anybody else. But anyways, going back to the book real quick, is that like when we talk about Derek Sivers, or even, I don't know if Brian, have you read about Josh Waitzkin yet?
No. If I might have read like a little portion of it, but maybe
Not the whole thing?
not the entire
Okay.
profile.
Well, I haven't listened to Josh Waitzkin's Distilled or his full podcast with Tim, but he's on a episode with Adam Robinson, Ramit Senif, I think is his name. I need to check that. But there's like 3 or 4 guys along with Tim, and they basically do a podcast in front of 900 people. And Josh Waitzkin is one of those guys, and super interesting guy, along of course with the other guys. But tying back to the book, to me it's like generally the same information, just on a reading form for those who don't like audio or say they can't listen. Well, that more than likely they read. Actually, I showed my mom. I gave her the book. I'm like, here, look, this is the book, whatever. And she opens it. She's like, oh my god. And she turned to, I think his name's Chris Sacca. I don't know. Chris and then Sacca.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can find it real quick, Brian. But so like the first things was basically going to more high powered meetings, or like high volume meetings. Volume meaning content, like dense content. Go put yourself in a room that puts you ahead of everybody else, or at least puts you in a higher possibility of accomplishing something. I think it's like on the second page or something. I don't know if it's there. I don't know if you can catch it real quick, Brian. But anyways, that's like the first thing she brought up, and because her initial reaction was like, "Oh my God, this book is huge!" Right? Obviously, if you don't read, or if maybe you get discouraged easily, this 600+ page book will easily do that to one person. But there's so much good information.
Yeah, it says here that he goes to any meetings, whether he's invited or not, and just basically takes notes or offers, his help if he can be helpful in any
Yeah.
way.
What page is it on?
166.
Oh, it's early in the book.
Yeah, and it's on the wealth section.
I was gonna say. Yeah, I guess that was the main part that she read in me. Like, she opened the book and it turned to that, and she read out loud, "Go to all the meetings you can, even if you're not invited to them, and figure out how to be helpful. If people wonder why you're there, just start taking notes. Read all the other notes you can find on the company and gain a general knowledge that your very limited job function may not offer you." And that's the way she tied it in, was where last year, well, I guess because she's been doing Mary Kay for, man, 8 years. I think close to 10, not quite 10, but very close to 10.
Right.
And she said she would, like, back in that time when she was getting just started, she was, of course, amplified to be there. She was really excited to be there and wanting to grow. But she would go to these meetings, and she felt at the time that she wouldn't get anything out of them. And I was like, because you're missing the do. They give you these tools, and you're missing the do. So then when I went to college and came back, or started coming back from my business classes, and I started, "Oh, Mom, I learned this," or hey, guys, I learned this. And she's like, "Man, that's what they've been telling me at Mary Kay. Oh, they tell me that at Mary Kay. Oh, they tell me that at Mary Kay." And then
Right.
she goes to these seminars in Dallas, Austin, the island sometimes. And it's like, "Oh, what'd you learn?" It's like, "Oh yeah, I learned that. Oh yeah, it's in this book that I've already read," or whatever. And finding that parallel, I'm like, okay, you're gonna read. I told her, I'm like, you're gonna read this book too.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just tools. Like, it kind of goes back maybe to the point to where I always say, I feel like our generation's heavy into like, oh, I have a degree, so I should have the better job because I have a degree. And it's like, no, you get a degree, but you need to use the stuff you learned as tools. And I think there's a big misconception on that, and I think that's a heavy millennial thing.
Like I've kind of heard that, so millennials are sometimes, I hear that they feel entitled because they have a degree and whatnot, but oftentimes they don't even know how to do those, like, the smaller tasks. They just feel like they deserve that position, that salary, that job title, and oftentimes they don't know how to do the little things that can maybe make their jobs more efficient, or But it's interesting that you mention, tools and degrees, because I feel that the generation after us are relying less on degrees and more on tools, because these, like, tools are available anywhere, especially in today's day and age with technology and the internet, and the world is basically a flat playing field with the internet. We have been globalized. Everything, all the tools that you could possibly need, most of them are out there, ready for the taking. So that's kind of a little conflict I've had within my own head with continue the traditional educational route or just gather tools from everyone and everything all around the world. That's our access now.
Yeah. One thing that, because I just started listening to NPR's Hidden Brain podcast, and there's a episode 38. It's called Me, Me, Me. And like the first sentence on the description, it says, it doesn't take a psychologist to see narcissism in our culture of selfies. And basically, this doctor, I believe she's a doctor, Jean Twenge, Twenge. She's a researcher, and of course, she's written books and whatnot. I don't know what book, but it just says here she's an author of books. Anyways, so she gives all these things that parents that were born in the 60s and early 70s started teaching their kids because they grew up maybe in the baby boomer time, whatever. So their needs were different, right? So by the time they got to having kids in the 70s and 80s, they started telling their kids, go after your dreams, like, oh, you're the best one out there, son, or you're the best one out there, daughter, whatever. That's kind of like been the mindset, and so it's now we're seeing it because I feel like the earlier part of the millennial generation, they're those entitled ones where we're kind of getting the backlash because we're the young ones, but we're not the millennials. We're not even the bulk of the millennials.
Yeah, there's definitely, I think, like a little crossover or like a blur. We're in that like transition between millennials and the next generation where we maybe have a little bit of both.
Right.
And it's evident because older millennials are, I think, less risky than maybe what we're willing to do.
Right.
Like as far as having, for one, like having multiple jobs, less traditional jobs, more of a freelance, do your own thing type of deal, offer your own services for anybody and anyone who's willing to pay. So that's not so traditional and safe as, although I do feel that millennials get the stigma of being a little more risky, follow your dreams. I think the next generation is just a little bit more out there and a little bit less traditional with the technology and the availability and the access and communication we have with the rest of the world now. So there's definitely some differences, and I think people in our age group kind of fall a little bit into each.
Right. We're right in that crossover, which is very interesting. A lot of people see some things as black and white, and I see a lot of things as black and white, but I'm also make myself see the middle, or at least the gray area that's a possibility. And maybe that goes back to like the parenting where like, oh, you're the best. So like you have that instilled in your brain, just knocked in you. I'm the best. So it is black and white for them because they are the best.
Right.
And actually, because I did get kind of like, it kind of got me in a negatively emotional way because at some point it seemed like she was kind of bashing millennials. I was like, wait a minute, like you're a researcher, like you shouldn't be taking an angle.
Right.
So I was like, man, but I let it finish. So I was like, okay, she kept going, talking about that. I'm like, man, while some of that's true, I'm like, I know that I didn't experience a lot of those things about being the best. And she says even with her kids now, like she consciously doesn't always say you're the best, but hey, keep working hard. Hey, good job, keep working hard. So the way she tied it in was that at the end was like that maybe, and I think she said it more or less like this, where maybe parents need to, or at least should start, even if you're a parent already or for future parents, is tell your kids to work hard and focus on the process, not being the best. Because in a sense, if you work hard, you're gonna see results anyways.
Right. That's very closely related to Gary V's whole, what is it? Micro speed, macro patience, yes. Where just kind of work hard every day, and eventually you'll get to where you want to be. You'll get that delayed gratification.
Yes.
But keep at it every day.
Right. Yeah. So she ties us in. The cool thing is that I made that connection too with Gary Vee because he's always talking about the process, right? Which is cool. And then hearing her putting kind of like some science and some like just some data to like what it is and also the why. For me, it explained the why, so I was able to just to move forward with it and not maybe not dwell on the subject. You know, where at some point there are a lot of dwellers that are older that say, "Oh, millennials are this and that." It's like, okay, now we know that it's really true, but it's your fault. You know, the parents' fault. You're the ones who parented them. Now, if they take if they take to listening to this podcast, like I said, titled Me," on Hidden Brain, I think it would help clarify that and then, stop doing that. Don't do that. Don't. Just because you don't tell your child that they're number one, whether they're number one or not, doesn't mean you don't love them. You still tell them you love them. That's different. And I think maybe this is just talking now, as I'm thinking about it and talking out loud, is like maybe they think that, oh, I have to tell my child that they're number one in order for them to know that I love them. It's like, well, no, just keep working hard, And like she says, like she rarely and very consciously doesn't tell them that they're the best. But hey, good job, keep working hard, or like let's keep working at it, whatever the situation may be, which is very interesting. Which it's a parallel that I have now. Because like after extreme ownership, for me it's extreme ownership. That's what got me into this like kind of mindset, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's like now I'm working with Luis, and he's like, "Oh, I'm tired." I'm like, "Okay, do one more set," and then when we finish, okay, one more set, okay, one more set, and then we're done. And by the time we're done, that's it. That's it. 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then we're done. Like today's Friday, Good Friday. A lot of people have day off. Brian, you don't have day off, so it's pretty. No. Yeah, you work, so it's all good. Eddie's working. But for those that had a day off maybe and slept in a little too long, or if you slept in and still didn't get a workout in, me and Luis, we got after it this morning. It was cool. Danny was there at 9 rounds, so he wrote us a little extra workout, basically a 10-minute round. So I had to use my clock, and it was 10-minute kettlebell swings, push-ups, and jump lunges. Right. It was great. And I think we got maybe 6 sets in of kettlebells, of like that. It's basically a superset. And we got about 6 rounds in 10 minutes, which is pretty good. The optimal goal that Danny was talking about that he does at his jiu-jitsu school is you have a minute to complete each set. And if you finish in 30 seconds, then you have a 30-second break. If you finish at 50 seconds, you have a 10-second break. Yeah, but you had to start on the minute. Start on the minute.
He had my sister and her friend do that. She said they were dying.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah. When she was explaining it to me, I was like, ouch.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was super good. And Luis was dying, but like one thing that I use from Extreme Ownership, and I've said this on, I think it's episode, I don't know what episode, but it's the title is Extreme Ownership Part 2, I believe, where Leif is he's an instructor now at Buds, but he talked about when he was going through Buds, not as an instructor, but as an actual like trainee. He said whenever he was put into a leadership position, he would just he would encourage his guys to make it to the next marker. Like, hey guys, okay, 50 feet, go. Like, we have 50 more feet. Okay, when they get to the 50 feet, okay, the next mark. Okay, guys, next to that next tree. And that's kind of what I did with Luis. Like, okay, 5 kettlebell swings, go. Okay, done. Okay, 10 push-ups, go. Okay, jump and lunge. Okay, right. Take 2 breaths. Okay, well, again, hit that, and keep going. Don't stop. And that's the crazy thing is like being able to do so much in 10 minutes.
Yeah, for me at least, like you never realize how much you can do in so little time until you kind of do stuff like that. Like, especially like strenuous exercises, just in stressful situations when you're pressured, then you're like, wow, like I could really make my minute, last.
Yeah. I don't know if you've noticed, Brian. I know you're in and out. Because you've been busy at the bank. Mm-hmm. But for me, definitely been feeling this past like 2-3 weeks where the 3-minute rounds feel like forever.
Lately, to be honest, they've felt about the same, but I have had in the past moments where it does feel like those 3 minutes are way longer.
Yeah.
And logically they can't be. It's a timer that's there, I don't think it randomizes the time.
No, you're right. No, yeah, it's consistent.
Yeah, like I not lately, but I have had times in the past when I'm like, is this really 3 minutes? Like, come on.
Yeah, and even some of the clients, because and I think it's just because I think it's finally happening where the clients are getting after it just a little bit more, just a little bit. So their 3 minutes feels like 5 minutes,
Right.
but they're getting in instead of 3 sets, they're getting in 5 or 6 or 7
Yeah.
sets. You
It's
know,
because of the amount of work or effort that they're putting
yeah,
in.
they're just
It
going and
yeah.
and at some point your body's like, hey, I'm tired, but yet the bell hasn't rang. So obviously it has not been those 3 minutes yet.
Right.
You know, which is crazy. It's something that I've noticed for sure the past 2 3 weeks. That I've noticed in the client, because I don't disagree with them. I don't let them know, of course, but I do agree in my head with them as far as like, man, it feels like forever. I'm like, it does feel like forever. You know, it feels like a really long time. And I'm just there training them. Like at that moment, I'm not working out. You know,
Right.
when I'm working out, I could give a damn. Like sometimes, man, they still come up to me like, can you change the song or can you change the music? And it's like, does it affect you that? Like I get it. Okay. What I need it for is to pump me up to get ready for the workout.
Uh-huh.
Once I start moving and my blood's flowing, like we're good to go. You know, it's just straight go and don't stop till you're done. Not even the bell, just go to the bell. You know, go
Yeah.
till you're done with the rounds. You know, don't be worried about, oh, I can't wait till the 30-second bell and then stop and then whatever. You know.
Yeah, I think early on when we first started, I was a little more aware and maybe a little more concerned about the 30-second bell, but later, like, it's just, you just hear it, and honestly, like, all the bells start, they're just bells. Like, sometimes I don't realize which one's the one to tell me to stop, which one's the one for the 30 seconds, which was the one to get me to start. Like, I'm just trying to get through my work. I'm just working,
Yes. Yeah.
And yeah.
Speaking of work, do you work hard, Luis?
I consider myself to be a very hard worker, but
Continue.
I don't think I work very hard.
Okay. Why don't you work hard?
I feel like I give up easily.
Okay.
Easily, like, I don't know how to say, discouraged.
You get discouraged. Okay. Why do you get discouraged?
Just that it's like, it gets hard and it gets painful.
You get hurt? It starts
Yeah,
hurting?
it starts hurting.
All right, everybody. So for those just tuning in, or hopefully those that have been listening for the past 20 minutes, I have my cousin on today. This is like I said, this is very much an improvised episode. And it's all good. Like Eddie was like, oh, I'm sorry I can't make it. You know, when I'm like, it's cool. It's cool. Like, I'm going to just side note real quick where it's like, it doesn't matter. It's not the end of the world. It's cool. Like I tried to reassure him. Like, dude, it's cool. Like, it's whatever. Like, we're gonna continue. And we haven't had an improvised podcast in a while. And like I said, I still had Brian bring Tools of Titans, and I actually bought my own copy just today because I was like, okay, maybe we're gonna do this. But then me and Luis started talking we actually started talking. We went to McDonald's today. Well, because we can't eat meat, so
Right.
with fish burger, and I'm
Fish
not gonna
fillet.
cook. Yeah. So we ate like 4 fish patties, and like it was all good. You know, whatever. We had some McDonald's. It was all good. Anyway, so we were talking, and as the day progressed, we were getting home right now in the afternoon, and I was like, dude, do you want to be on the podcast today? And he's like, I don't know. He was hesitant. I was like, come on, let's give it a shot. So I'm trying to just transition here for Luis' sake, because he is here. He's my cousin. He's 15. He's in high school. I'm not gonna say what high school. We don't give names like that. Anyways, so as we're talking about these concepts that we're learning about, I'm 25. Brian's 24. I want to be 26 this year, which is now for me it's just awesome. Like it's cool. It's just I feel like I'm going backwards in time now that I have a different mindset.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, like, I don't know when it was, but I've definitely reached a point where I feel more comfortable getting older, and I'm more excited about the future rather than dreading it, and getting older and more responsibilities or
Right.
whatnot. With the pressures of, hey, you need to settle down and start a family. No.
Yeah.
Hold up. Yeah. I'm more excited about
Yeah.
my own plans than
at
I
the
have
moment.
now with the knowledge I have now. Like,
Yeah.
So I get what you mean.
So it's, and I had already planned. I had planned at some point at least to get Luis on here, eventually. I mean, he's 15. He's in the meat of developing a brain. The way I see it, where last year I had 6 months left to get as much information as I could. That's why I read so many books and did this and that. He has 5 years, and it's like, okay, I'm just gonna feed him as much information as I can with the time that I do have with him. I'm not worried about the 12 days I don't have him. I'm worried about the 2 days I do have him, the 48 hours I do have him.
Right.
And so Luis, he's here. We're talking about work. He gets discouraged, and that's where I say, as an adult now, a 25-year-old adult, that's where it's our job to go and do with them. Like for me, like this morning, me and Luis went to 9 round, and we got a workout in, and then the last 10 minutes, which we were just talking about, I did the workout with him. And that's one thing, as far as being a difference between a leader and a manager. One thing that I know, I strictly get this from extreme ownership, where, you can't lead from the back. You have to lead from the front.
Right.
And so I take that to heart, and actually I found that you have to be in the middle. Because you have to know where you're going, but you also need to make sure that your team's coming with you.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to navigate through, and of course with Navy SEALs it's way different because everybody has an individual job. It's not like everybody has an M4 and they just go shoot. No, you have the point man, you have the snipers, you have the grenade hold, the guys with grenades.
Right.
Anyways, everybody has their individual job, so it's not a team of numbers; it's a team of responsibilities, and that's what's changed. And so going back with Luis and doing all these kettlebell swings, doing these push-ups and jump lunges and punching the bags and stuff, doing it with him, I think it's vital. I think vital is a strong word, and I want to use that word. It's vital for us as adults. If we understand so much, then you need to understand, and we need to understand that this next generation, they're going to be our employees. And if we're good leaders over the manager thing, they're going to fall into that position so we can retire happily. Because if you were to open up your own job, let's say Brian, you're opening up the store, right? You're going to open up your own store. In 10 years, you're going to hire Luis. You're going to train him up. You're going to work him up. If you decide to retire and the store fails, it's not because of Luis.
Right.
It's
Be
because
leadership.
Right. And of course, this is very I think a very compact example because you foresee hiring employees, not just an employee.
Right.
But I think when you hire, I think it's that important because then when you have children, when you have siblings or whatnot, being the oldest or being the senior leader in the company, then it's important to make sure you do nurture and maximize your time, which we were just talking about. Maximizing those 3 minutes, maximizing those 48 hours, not the 12 other days that you're not going to be at work or whatever. Maximizing that time.
Yeah.
So I need to go back. So at the beginning of this episode, I had mentioned briefly that I talked to some 6th graders, and I just started developing these questions because I just saw boredom in the classroom. Pure boredom. They were doing the work, but they're just bored out of their minds. So one of the questions I asked, and I had the students write down, don't write your names, just write your answers, And one of the questions was, what would help you pay attention in class? How could we make lessons more interesting? And one of the answers I got, well, actually, before I get to the answers, I want to hear what you think. How do you feel in the classroom? And be honest, because this is very important. I'm going to let you know this is very important for the macro picture of what I'm trying to do. And I need honest answers. We always hit good points on this podcast, and the main thing, the most important thing right now is honesty. So I need to hear you as a student, 15-year-old, you're a freshman in high school. What would help you? Okay, do you pay attention in class? How focused are you on whatever the teacher's trying to teach you?
I focus on the important lessons.
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean important lessons?
Stuff that would be on the state test or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really focus on unnecessary lessons that I don't need.
Okay. Do you guys get taught a lot of? Okay. Would those unnecessary lessons help you? Do you or is the state test lessons so much information that you almost can't like keep the stuff that doesn't matter?
The state test does require. I mean,
Just talk. Well, the question is, what would help you pay attention in class? But what I'm trying to get to is like, because you're saying that there are lessons that the teachers teach you, right? But they're not needed for the STAR test, and there's a bunch of lessons that you need for the STAR test. Now, is there so much information needed for the STAR test that you can't focus on the extra stuff?
yes, yes, there is a lot of information that is needed that you can't focus on the extra stuff because the tests or the lessons are easily forgotten if you teach this person this new thing. Because there's a lot of kids in my class, they get confused easily when you like offer a new subject that's like not needed for the test.
Okay. All I'm getting is that we need to do away with the fucking STAR test. Oh, man. What would help you? Now on the subjects that you're learning for STAR, you feel like you get that down pretty good.
Yeah, I do. I
Okay,
think so.
you don't have. Do you ask questions often?
Only when I really, really do need it.
Okay. Yeah, these probably will be short answers. 'Cause that's what I got from the students. I'm like, you can give me more, but I'm like, okay, they're 11 years old, they're 15 years old. You know, I can only kind of expect so much right now.
Right.
But I'm hoping through this talk with Luis, trying to plant these seeds that we'll eventually get to way more dense discussions as we progress in the podcast. Anyways, are the lessons interesting, or is it only because of the test that you like are into them?
It's mainly only because of the test that you get into them. You don't really study it because it's interesting.
Yeah, I got that. I got that general synopsis too from the school I was at Tuesday, Wednesday. This wouldn't tie in because the next question would be, how could we make lessons more interesting? But if the student's not interested, and it's a heavy dichotomy. It's a heavy dichotomy maybe because I know there's some things that we need to teach kids, like virtues and whatnot. But what's your favorite subject, Luis?
I would say history.
Dude, everybody's told me history.
Really?
Everybody.
History was probably one of my least favorite subjects in school.
And history didn't become my favorite subject until college because of my professor.
Mm-hmm.
My professor, he's just all over it, and it was
now
great.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Like I wish I would have liked it more so
Right,
that
fair.
I knew more.
Same. No, at high school I was not about it
But
either.
yeah, like in school it was my least favorite. But now I guess maybe, with my mentality now and my interest, I wish I would have enjoyed it more so that I knew more about history.
Right.
But to me that's very interesting. It's not something I expected.
Yeah, I think 4 out of 5 were history. And because it got to some point, by the end of the class period, I'm like, hey guys, real quick, what's your favorite subject? And whatever. And
Right.
I had one female. She said science, which makes sense, which is great. And then, but I think the majority of males were history. Most of my male students. Why is history your favorite subject?
I think it's my favorite subject because just the way it just interests me, like learning about past times and how it was back then.
Yeah. Does that make you feel like you were there instead of like here now?
In a way, it does.
Sometimes, yeah. Like, I mean, that makes sense too, because I know we have our nostalgic moments, and then we get to 25, like, screw the past, let's keep moving. Us,
Yeah.
us, like, because I know, dude. Remember, I mean, the music and like just things that we were doing, like that nostalgic, like thinking about it now. Then wishing we were like in a different time from where we were at, and now I think the mindset has changed dramatically because of the things we're reading and the mindsets we're getting into now. The seeds that we're getting fed,
Yeah.
from Gary Vee, Tony Robbins, for me, Jocko, us, Jocko, Seth Godin, all these great entrepreneurs and just wise thinkers,
Yeah,
just super wise thinkers.
Now, like, my mentality consists a lot of, you can't change the past, don't dwell on it. it's only gonna make you. It's only gonna depress you if maybe you've made some bigger mistakes and stuff like that. Like, don't even worry about it. Just move forward, and plan accordingly for a bright and better future.
Yeah.
So, I get it, and with what you're saying, with what we've been reading, that's kind of the theme, right?
Yeah.
But I do sometimes I do like to dive into the past because of the nostalgia and like, I don't know if we haven't talked about this on the podcast before, but I brought up how sometimes listening to like some sad music and stuff brings positive feelings in me.
It's actually scientific. I just read a scientific thing where it
Right.
says that, it's like,
Yeah. And it's something that I know, like, I brought up to you, maybe Eddie, and I know if it was just us two, then I think you agreed with me. But yeah, then I might have stumbled upon something like that too, like what you're saying, and I was like, wow, like I wasn't so far off, like I wasn't crazy.
Yeah,
I'm not emo.
Yeah, we're not crazy. It's just a time in our lives that it's like, man, one thing I do wish from the past. This is just an extremely side note, that I still want a 68, 69 Camaro. Like that's still one of my dream cars.
Right.
I still want. My dad's a Chevelle, so that's when we have a Chevelle and a Camaro. Anyways, back to the topic at hand. Do you get a lot of homework?
Yeah, I do.
You get quite a bit of homework. What would you like to be done as a part of your homework? Like, you're on YouTube a lot, right? When you're not doing homework, you're on YouTube a lot. What tools that you're not using in school would you like to be used? And YouTube is a tool, so if you want to say, if YouTube's one of them, if you give more examples of what you would like to use at home to help you study and learn this material better.
Like, if the teacher would provide links, like, on YouTube, so, like, this person, like, professional, can help you. Like, they could provide links to YouTube videos.
Yeah.
So it can help you with the subject and
that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. Sorry to interrupt.
No, good.
But like what I was saying, that generation after us, they're kind of using the tools, or we all have access to it, but the generation after us, Gen Z, they are more prone to using these tools, on the internet and basically experiences and ideas from anybody around the world.
Right.
And that's what Luis is getting at. He wishes that there could be some sort of link to, hey, this YouTuber, this blogger, this vlogger, they can help you with your homework, or they'll have a more efficient way of doing this, or,
Man.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So, okay, this is going to be a general question that we can go forward with is, what does that do for teachers if we can learn anything from the internet?
And that's what I'm saying. That's what I just mentioned earlier. Like, I have my inner debate about the traditional education route versus, picking up your tools from anybody in the world. So I think in this case, teachers become more of like a guidance rather than an actual educator. And then the world becomes your educator.
Education system.
Yeah, and I was talking to my cousin Johnny from California.
Yeah.
He was the last time I saw him in Dallas. Or no, actually not the last time. The last time. The last time I had lunch with him and my brother in Dallas. They're both wanting to be engineers, but the school that he goes to in California, that's basically what their structure is in the classroom. There's a mentor there to kind of guide them through the lesson and guide them through the material, but they are pretty much learning things through hands-on work, hands-on experience.
Makes sense.
And the teachers aren't like, if I remember correctly, they're not like certified teachers like what we're used to having. They're kind of mentors. They're guidance counselors.
I think mentor is the best term you can use.
That guide them through all the material and the work, but really they're not doing much teaching as you and I would know it, or as you and I had
it taught to us. Man, it's so interesting. It's gonna be an interesting change because, I mean, the crazy extreme is like, where do you go from the internet? You have everything everything access to you, like given to you, or in a sense given to you.
Yeah, I think if anything, it just gets easier to transfer the information.
Yeah.
It's going to be a lot more information, a lot more people out there putting out content that, you can use or relate to, or I think at some point maybe this is I'm having like a Gary V moment, but maybe YouTube will at some point be our education. If I mean, it very well may be, because even in college we use these academic like databases
Right.
to and it's a database of literature that
Scholarly literature. Yeah.
scholarly articles and published work that anybody and everybody has written. So I'd hate to think that maybe we're heading more, that maybe our attention spans are heading in the way of visual learning rather than just reading or listening to a lecture, but it could very well go that route.
Yeah. Man. And I guess what's crazy to me at this moment is like that mixture of wanting the next batch of kids to be well educated and yet having, at this moment no control. Like, I'm not gonna run for school board. I'm not gonna do a bunch of things that maybe would make a difference, but like that political stuff, like
Well, right now you won't, but
Right.
what about 15, 20 years from
yeah,
now?
and that's what I'm saying. Like now, after I've talked about the Andy Walker thing, where I didn't anticipate the podcast, and that was, I didn't anticipate half the things that I'm doing now. Reading, one of the things I brought up in episode, I don't know, sorry, the Extreme Ownership Part 2 episode was, I talked about Andy Walker and why I developed that. And then, I didn't anticipate a podcast. I mean, podcast barely, if anything, existed 5 years ago, So going back to the school board deal, it's very possible. I'm very interested because I know, is it Neil deGrasse Tyson said he's working on some education stuff. I don't know if you caught that. When he was on Joe Rogan, I think it's episode 919.
I think I did, and then Joe Rogan made a comment like, "I need that now."
Yeah, right. Not even in 5 years. Like, my kids are in school now. I need that.
Right.
And maybe that's where my thoughts have stemmed from, and then being a substitute and these kids, and I was actually talking to my mom about this just before we started recording, was like, my favorite students are the bad students. Those are the ones I focus on because I know the good students are going to do their work.
And sometimes I feel like the bad students aren't even necessarily bad. You just don't grab their attention the same way, the traditional
exactly.
route. So I do think that there may be a shift in our educational institutions. Maybe not now, but as our, I guess maybe our values and our knowledge of the world and education starts shifting from the older generations onto the younger ones, there will be a shift, and at some point there will be a transition where we say, you know what, maybe this isn't working for everybody.
Yeah.
Let's find something better.
Funny thing is, I'm gonna tie this into health real quick because me and Luis were out working out and whatnot, and then of course I had him drink the same like juice concentrate that I drink. I just started drinking this week, and but of course for the most part every label says this is based on a 2,000 calorie diet, right? And I'm like, and that made me question the whole like 2,000 calorie diet system, because I was like, okay, let's assume, okay, right now I'm 5'7", 5'8", right? And let's say I'm on a healthy 2,000 calorie diet because I don't exercise, okay. So if Luis didn't exercise, he's 6'3". You're gonna tell me 2,000 calories is enough for him?
Well, I think, let's say he needs to consume 4,000, then he'd adjust that juice concentrate. Like, everybody's different. That's
my point. Well, that's my point. Is like they're trying. They've been. I mean, I feel like maybe companies have been trying to make things black and white so they can get people on their side. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe I wasn't clear. Like, I have to consume 2,000 calories, right? You're gonna tell me that Luis can only consume 2,000 calories being almost a foot taller than me? Like, I think it's more. He needs more. That's what I'm saying. Like, I think he needs more. And if you're saying based on a 2,000 calorie diet, like, it doesn't. What you're saying, it doesn't apply to everybody. The same education system doesn't apply to everybody. And I know we got to this point on another podcast where you brought up, do we need to? I think it was an opinion. You said pure opinion, but do we need an overhaul on the education system? Mm-hmm. I actually asked one teacher Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday. She said yes. And I was like, well.
And the more like time I spend out of school, the more I believe it. I don't know why, it just feels like the schooling that we went through is kind of outdated, and it could be better. And the only thing is, I can't say how it could be better. Like,
Right,
I don't have
right,
the
yeah,
answers,
right.
but it definitely needs to be looked at.
And because things are changing, the YouTube thing, and it's like, you want to learn how to become a teacher, go on YouTube. No, whatever.
Basically, like, dude, YouTube has become my Google. I
Yeah.
don't even really bother Googling things.
Yeah.
I just go straight to YouTube, and someone's gonna show me, or someone's give me an entertaining lecture on
Right.
on what I want to know. Yeah, and like, now I forgot what I was. One time I was trying to kind of catch up on something, on like a book or something. I just kind of wanted to get like the down and dirty rundown of it.
Yeah.
And it was really it was. I hate to admit it, but it was, I'm gonna get very stereotypical, but it was a black guy, kind of like in a rapper gangster clothing,
Okay.
speaking like a gangster and just explaining the book to me, and that it was very easy for me to understand and relate, the plot, and that, that's kind of what it comes down to. Like, we need to adjust to and not that we need to, but we will have to, because everything else is changing.
Yeah.
So,
I was like, funny thing, because, like, of course, our politicians, for the most part, are older people. So it's like, okay, imagine I run for, let's just say, I really don't plan. I may pay somebody to do this for me. I'd hopefully have the capital to be able to do that. Like, hey, I would say lobby, but lobby for the right. And what I would lobby for, I guess going to this is, being able to adjust. Because okay, now let's say I ran for a school office, a school board member, whatever, in 15 years. In 15 years, it's gonna change again. Like what I wouldn't be. It wouldn't be right for me to say, oh, this is what I learned. This is it. In 15 years, you'd be like, okay, guys, this is what's going on now. This is what we should be doing now. That makes sense? Like, and we're today, 2017, oh man, I don't know if it was on Hidden Brain. I think it might have been, where, a political office, I think the way they put it was like, a political office is now used just to draw. Like, people are using political office for their brand. In a sense, I need to, I guess I need to remember and re-listen to one of the episodes that I had already heard, but it was around like that mind. It was similar to that, where like because they brought up like Donald Trump versus Hillary, and like how everybody, like even the media, even the mainstream news media, they all use fear to either get you to not do something, or the way mainstream media works is that they use fear to get you to stay on that channel. Like, oh my God, did you hear this? And they get you turn to that channel.
Right.
Oh, did you hear this? Oh, you turn to that channel. Oh, did you hear what Donald Trump said? And then you.
I caught
Whatever.
that. I caught that earlier on this week when I was having dinner at the table at home,
Okay.
and the TV was on, and I was watching the news, and I caught something like right before commercials, like, but it was like that. It
Right before the commercial.
Yes,
Like,
they
when
want
we
you
come
to stick
back,
around.
body found in the canal.
Yeah, something very vague and sketchy, and it makes you wonder, like, well, crap, am I in danger, or what is this,
Yeah.
So you stick around and watch, and I'm just so against it, because there's negativity everywhere, and the fact that, like, yes, you should be informed, but I don't like the fact that mainstream media is filtering it for you. That's why I like to go and kind of do my own research on what I think is important, or is vital for me to know.
Yeah. Well, we can go into mainstream media just real quick. We were at McDonald's, and of course, in the kids section, they have like Disney Channel, and in the main seating area,
Right.
they have CNN, and of course, they're all talking about Moab,
Yeah.
mother of all bombs, and Trump, and getting all these either veterans on there, and then they get some Dems on there, some liberals, and they're just back and forth. There was no debating, but it was just back and forth, right? So one question that I've been pondering on since our last podcast that I talked about a student that brought up like the military draft and whatnot. So given that and given just the circumstances of uncertainty, um, it made me think. I'm like, man, and I think I said this on the podcast where I was like, man, do I stay? Do I go? You know, because if I go, then I won't be here with Luis. Like he's probably the priority. You know, that's I would say equivalent to music, because I know, and I told him because today he asked me. He's like, how do you see me? And I'm like, well, I see you as a 15-year-old kid who has a chance. I'm like, the rest of the help is gonna come from me. I'm like, that's why I want you to go work out with me. I want you to eat right foods. I want you to do all these things. I'm like, you have a chance, right? So, anyways, going back to the route, and we got to McDonald's and CNN's on, and I asked Luis because the question I pondered on was, do I stay or do I go? And I told Luis, I'm like, hey man, how would you feel about me joining the Army Reserve? And what did you tell me, Luis?
I said that, I mean, there's really no point of joining the Army Reserve if you're just going to be away and not go to war.
And then what else did you say? You said a little more. Say it all.
I said that if I were to join the military, I would have joined the Army, not the Army Reserve.
Why?
Because, I mean, there's really no use in being in the Army Reserves if you're not being used the correct way. I mean, like, you go to the Army Reserves and you're just there and you're not doing anything, versus people going to Iraq and Afghanistan and giving their lives up. I mean, that's pretty much.
Yeah, no, I'm leaving a pause on purpose so people can hopefully digest that. That's coming from a 15-year-old. And he, as much as he thinks that, he gets tired, he gets fatigued, when he's working out and doing this and that, and, he feels like maybe he's not mentally strong enough yet. His mindset is, well, what's the point if I'm not going to go? If I'm not going to go do? And for me, that's very good. So, and one of the things that you ended with, Luis, was also like, that you think the war's gonna end. You think Trump's gonna put an end to it with this stuff that's going on. Go ahead.
Well, I think he is gonna end the war pretty much.
Okay. How? I mean, talk about.
Well,
tell me what you said on earlier.
Eventually, he dropped the bomb, right? I'm pretty sure eventually ISIS is just gonna give up. ISIS is just gonna be tired of losing soldiers, and eventually they're not gonna have enough people to do the acts that they would like to do.
Right. And of course there's gonna be a lot of people on here listening like, oh no, like and actually I saw a meme yesterday. It's like, oh, Trump dropped a bomb, so let's welcome 50 new terrorists, right? And I was like, maybe, but they'll probably die too. That's kind of my mindset, whatever. But my point still reflects on the fact that this 15-year-old kid is thinking that way. And I'll tell everybody, I trust Luis's intuition way more than I trust my own. I trust my own pretty well, like maybe 80%, 90%. I trust Luis's intuition 98%. Like it's really dead on. And so when he brought up that point of view of like, he's like, it's not gonna happen right away, but the war's gonna end. And he's like, you shouldn't go because the war's gonna end. And I said, cool. And I said, cool. And I told him too. I'm like, I couldn't have this conversation with my parents or anybody else. I don't feel like, I waited till this weekend because, like I said, going back to the conversation I had with a student and then we had it in the podcast, but military draft, and I was in my own little state of vulnerability because I was like, well, I'll sign up for the reserves. I'll still be home because I'll just be training. If they need us to go out, we'll ship out, and that'll be that, right? But at least I'll be home for Luis. I'll be home, and we'll get some more work done. Get him ready for everything, not just one specific thing. Anyways, so then when we were watching CNN, and then he tells me that, I was like, okay, well, I'll wait it out longer. Like I can wait it out,
Right.
And I was like, that was the end of my. That was the end of my. That uncertainty is gone because that's all I needed was the reassurance of like. Of okay, yes or no, but also he gave me like a little foundation of like, if you're gonna go do it all the way. You know, go to the Navy, go to the Army, go to the Marines, go
Right.
to the Air Force, whatever. I couldn't go to the Air Force. I'm blind as fuck, so it wouldn't work. But you know, like don't go to the reserves. And one thing that he mentioned, and I didn't think about it maybe in depth, but like you know that's taxpayers' money. Like don't forget it's taxpayers' money. And what I tied that into was like it's a human being, right? Paying for your well-being in a sense.
Right.
And so I was like, man, like Luis brought up valid points, and I was like, okay, I'm done. Like I'm done with that. I don't have to think about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because if things escalate, then he knows now. We've already talked about it, so it's out in the open. You know, my hardest thing was like, hey, Luis, what do you think about this? Like, no. And if he gave me, if he gave me legitimate reasons, I wouldn't go anyways, right? I really wouldn't. But we talked about it, and he gave me to me a fulfilled answer. You know, a honest answer.
Right.
It's like okay, and then like I said, the whole thing about the war's gonna end, and then taxpayers' money. Okay, and if you're not gonna do it right, then don't go at all.
Mm-hmm.
If you're gonna go, then go freaking sign up for the Army, sign up for the Marines, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And that was that. That was the end of that conversation. That was earlier this morning. That was after workout. We had post workout. We got some greens in us. Then we got some, we got some fish because that's what we had to eat today, which is all good. Very much a conscious thing though because we were gonna go to Logan's because like, hey man, you hungry? He's like, yeah. And I was like, and we're like steaks. Like, yeah, let's get some steaks. Like, we had a good workout. You know, he hadn't had a workout with me in a while, so. I was
Get
like,
that gratification.
yeah. Let's get some steaks. Let's get some like yeast rolls in, dude. Let's get some of that stuff. You know, let's get some of that stuff going. And then we were literally like maybe 500 feet from Logan's, and I was like, it's Good Friday. I'm like, I'm pretty sure we can't have meat. And so we got to the parking lot, and I was like, should we? And he's like, no, I'm not going to hell because of you. I was like, okay. I'm like, okay, let's go to McDonald's. I was like, that's fair enough. That's all I needed too. You know, it's so, man, that's mine and Luis's relationship. You know, I allow him to check me. You know, I'm an adult, but I listen. And I'm not saying this to gloat. I'm saying this for you parents and then future parents or those that want to be parents, is like, you need to listen to your child. And it's interesting how we're doing this podcast today, this episode. We're an hour in, and it wasn't anticipated, but everything that's gone through my week has led up to this conversation. So it makes sense.
And I think it only makes sense, like what you just said about listening, not only to your children, but I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't do. Like in their daily lives, like they don't listen enough. They don't try to absorb what's out there, what anybody else has to say.
Yeah.
A lot of the times I feel like we walk around thinking that we've got an all-knowing book in our heads and only we know the right way, or that we trust very limited amounts of people, or, you know, we only do like things a certain way. But no, like you have to listen. Why wouldn't you in today's day and age when there's all this information out there? Why wouldn't you listen to what has to be said, to, you know, to different examples, different reasonings, and just, you know, like that's why I like Tim Ferriss's style with Tools of Titans, Tools of Titans, right? Yeah. Because it's a buffet style. Everything's there, and you know, if one thing doesn't work for you, then keep reading. You'll find something.
Yep.
So keep listening. You'll find something.
Right. And going back to Tools of Titans, is my mom opened up to this book with Chris. I'm gonna go with Seika because it's 2C, so I'm gonna go with Chris Seika, and my mom's like, and cause, like I said, my mom's like, oh my god, like that's a huge book, and she opened it, and I'm like, see, that's the point. You open up to one page, and you're like, oh yeah, I've been told that before. Oh man, I should do that more often, or whatever. You know, I'm like, that's the point. I'm like, that's exactly the point. It's a buffet style that you can get something every day. If you read one page, I 99% guarantee you that you'll get something that you can use today.
Yep.
In these books, all of them. I mean, I now have the 4-Hour Body by Tim Ferriss, and now I have Tools of Titans. You know, like these books, they're gold. I mean, they're literal gold. To me, they're more valuable than gold.
Yeah.
Back to education, real quick. Luis, do you get do they give you like incentives at school? Like, hey, if you read this much, we'll give you a candy, or you get something.
Oh, actually, I think Wednesday, my algebra teacher gave us a study sheet, right?
Okay.
Well, he made us study for 15 minutes. Then he told us to put a study sheet away. and then he gave us basically, you know how you used to solve those missing blanks
Fill in the
things as a
blanks.
kid, yeah, but math.
Okay.
So you had to like write the equation and all that.
Okay.
And he said, you're competing against your partner next to you. Whoever gets the most filled out in the next 10 minutes gets about how much, like 5 Jolly Ranchers.
And okay, did those five? I mean, maybe it did. Did those 5 Jolly Ranchers make you like want to win? Like those 5 Jolly Ranchers, did they make you want to win? Or you're like, it's 5 Jolly Ranchers. Like, be honest. I mean, be honest. I need honest answers. I'm not here to ridicule. I'm here to learn.
I think it did kind of like persuade me to get better.
Okay.
Like I mean to like finish.
Right. So you want to try
on
to finish
top,
first.
yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. The reason why I bring up incentives is because can we find better incentives than candy? And I think pizza party is okay because you have like a group thing.
Right.
This week at the school I was at, they had the book fair and whatever. So if you read I think it was like 8 points, AR books. Like if you read 8 points, you got $1 credit at the book fair. And I was like, it's like $1.19 for a candy. Like,
Well, to me, like I remember the book fair being kind of pricey.
Yeah.
So, and as far as incentives go, I don't know that we can find quote unquote better incentives because I feel that different things will appeal to different students.
Fair.
So let's say those Jolly Ranchers appeal to half the class, but the other half will just like, this is just candy. I don't need it or I don't want it. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that incentives do work, but the right incentives.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. And I don't disagree. Go ahead.
My 6th grade history teacher had the best answer to that. Like, if I do this for you, can you give me a candy? He would be like, he'd be like you say a kid says, if I do it, what are you gonna give me? He would say knowledge.
That's good. See, that's one of those outliers that's I feel is for the better of like a child's education, and not having to force feed this knowledge, because of a test. Now, feed the knowledge because it's good for the student. They should know, obviously basic math. They should know how to read. Context clues, critical thinking. Like those basic foundational things. But I think when it comes to the meat of what's going on in the education system is like the STAR test, the tax test, the TOS test. Remember the TOS test?
I remember all of them.
Yeah. So, and then the STAR before the TOS test. It was actually STAR at one point, then TOS, then tax, and STAR again. Going through these changes, and it's like, and even these teachers I was talking with this week, and it's like, hey, what's going on? I was like, well, we're reviewing for the next 2 weeks because the STAR's coming up, like the first or second week of May. I'm like, okay, cool. And I don't have anything more to say to that, but it just makes me think. It's like, okay, yeah, I remember going through those 2-3 weeks or that 6 weeks of preparing for the physics tax test or whatever. I remember doing that in those classes in high school, and it's like, man, maybe this part's pure opinion, but it's very nerve-wracking because then people wonder why you don't have better employees. Not you don't have good employees, but better employees. Right. In the workplace, I think it's very corollary, and especially now, it's like going back to extreme ownership. It starts with the leaders, starts with the guys at the top. And even now, was it you, Luis, that said, where Obama, try to keep peace for what was you say? You said something like where Obama tried to keep peace for 8 years, and then has now led to like the creation of this war or something like that. You said something like that.
I think I said that Obama ended a lot of wars, but he created one big war.
That's what he said. He ended a lot of little wars, which was like, I don't know. We'll find out. But when he said it when Luis said this like that, where it's like he ended all the small day-to-day stuff, but now it seems like we're gonna head into a bigger war, which we don't know yet. It depends on everybody else and their nuclear bombs and shit.
Right.
But when he brought up that led to a big war, it's that delayed reaction. And if that happens, it is corollary, because I'll never forget our history AP teacher in high school. I'm not going to say his name because I think he's a lawyer now. But But he always said, like the presidential like effects are always delayed. Because he talked about Bush. We're ending the Bush administration, going to Obama administration, and one thing's like, guys, like you won't see this until like later, and now we're done with 8 years of Obama,
Right.
so it must be where we're gonna get some of that delayed reaction, whether we want to admit it or not. But I think our teacher was onto something there,
Yeah.
because in the end, we always tie everything into time, delayed gratification versus instant gratification, and the massive differences that of results that can happen because of whatever, whether you let it happen and wait, be patient with it, or if you want something now, which people want stuff now. Given our circumstances with social media and whatnot, people want
Yep.
stuff now. So Obama was able to cater to that. But if Luis is right on the creation of the bigger war, then it's gonna be interesting to see what happens in the next 4 years. And imagine like Trump's get reelected. Trump gets reelected.
Yeah, and that's already a big probability because re-election odds are very high.
Mhm.
You know, what president? Very few presidents didn't get reelected.
Right. Yeah. Man, it's a lot. I'm trying to digest this with everybody who is listening right now, because it's
We're
a lot.
digesting this in real time.
Yeah, we're digesting this in real time. I guarantee it. I do have some notes that I am going off of, but uh, I'm trying to. It seems like all this ties in. Going from Luis's generation to our generation to then the president, which is the older generation. In general, seeing that process and literally at this moment in time being smack in the middle as 25-year-old millennials being in the middle of 10 years younger than us, 10 years older than us, and then beyond.
Man, one thing that how we always talk about how we do things a certain way or we do certain things, and then later when we find other successful people doing them, it kind of reassures you that you're on the right path.
Yes.
So I'm reading this. I'm kind of just flipping through Tools of Titans, and I came across a profile that this author that I like,
Yes. I
Paulo
see that.
Coelho. So there's a quote of his here that says, "The world is changed by your example, not by your opinion." And I think that's something we always kind of talk about. Leading by example, and your opinion is pretty much worthless, or it's your own really,
Yeah.
but it's not gonna change a thing. And I kind of, when I say this, I'm kind of thinking about the people that whine.
Yeah.
People that whine, complain, and just vent about the same thing over and over, but they don't make a difference, and they don't do anything about it. They're not proactive on their opinions. So I don't know. Just reading this kind of reassures me that's right.
Yeah.
That the world is changed
Yeah.
by your example.
And I've already talked about leading by example. I don't want to necessarily go into it again. One thing that I will mention is what I told Luis, becoming a freshman this year, was I think I've mentioned this as well, but now that he's here, he can hear me say it. But I had told him at the beginning of the school year, I'm like, don't forget, bro. I'm like, now you're a freshman. I'm like, now you have 6th, 7th, and 8th graders watching your moves. They whether you think so or not, how you do things is how they're gonna think it's okay to do things. I guess I just don't want to go into leading by example necessarily.
Yeah, no.
Because I've
And I
already
didn't-
talked about it. Go ahead.
No, and I was gonna
Okay.
say I didn't necessarily mean to go into leading by
Yeah,
example.
no.
Just more of don't just sit there and complain, but
Right.
get out there and be proactive, do something.
Right. I guess what I was gonna say, because what I'm trying to lead by example. I'm trying to do the work, so that the people who do follow me or maybe, look for me for advice. Like, well, this is what you do. And now with social media, I'm able to post every single minute if I want to on
Right.
what I'm doing. So like with Luis, me trying to do that with him, but then reminding him that hey, whether you think so or not, you are a leader. Now, if you're good or not, that's the difference, right? And that's where you go from a leader to a manager, and you start diversifying between that. But I tell him, don't forget. And maybe maybe he has, but I know I was gonna need a lot of time. Last year, I will admit I'm gonna use this word very, I guess, loosely, but I was very savage in my workout methods with Luis. Like, I mean, I didn't care if he hated me; it didn't matter,
Right.
and because that's still my mindset now. But I'm able to approach it better. I just
Maybe more effectively.
yeah, just more effectively and more efficient. So we're like, instead of saying, "Hey, we're gonna go punch a bag for 10 minutes. I'm like, hey, what do you want to do? Do you want to go play basketball? Do you want to go roll?
Right.
Finding things that that he does like, and just do that for an hour. Do that for an hour.
Yeah.
So like me with him, but now reinstilling again him as a freshman. Now gonna be a sophomore. So now he's gonna have these 8th graders coming up to freshmen. Having their freshman. He's gonna be a sophomore. Now he's competing for JV spots, varsity spots. Like, hey, this is where you're gonna distinguish. And hopefully little by little, with the more time I have with him, obviously, keep instilling the mindset of like the pain's gonna happen, but it's only for a little bit. Now, if you want to play college football, if you want to do pro football, those guys work out every freaking day, 7 days a week, and especially now that one thing that I heard on the podcast recently, I think it was Justin Wren on Joe Rogan, where he talked about like before like he would go to training camp. He's a UFC fighter, Justin Wren. And he would go into a training camp to just train for the fight. 6 weeks, cut a bunch of weight, get in shape for those 6 weeks, and then just go back to his normal stuff. Right. Where now, like the training he has in particularly now, it's a lifestyle. It doesn't stop. You live healthily just to be healthy, a healthy person.
Yeah, that's why I don't believe in diets.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we've gone to that too.
Most of the time,
right.
they're just temporary, and you're just gonna try to follow this to meet a certain goal, and then you're gonna let yourself go. Yeah. So I definitely think that more so going into 2017, you should alter your lifestyle to fit, not necessarily like a specific, for example, a fitness goal, but just a lifestyle goal. How do you like to live? Not how would you like to look by this point in time, or not what do you want to accomplish for these 2 months, but what do you want to accomplish down the road?
Yeah. I think those who wrote like fitness books like the past 5 years or so leading up to now, I think that they try to capitalize on that to make a profit. Like, hey guys, do this and that.
Right.
And for some people it works, but not for everybody, right? And for those who get not encompassed, like they get pulled, I guess. They get drawn, I guess that's a better word. They get drawn to like these books, like, oh, the book says this, so it must be good. And it takes way more than that. And, I'm just gonna reiterate the process, what Gary Vee talks about, versus the instant gratification. That's as far as I'm gonna go with that. But we've talked about that over and over again, and we always come back to it. Almost every single podcast, we find a way to talk about delayed gratification versus instant gratification. That dichotomy.
It's our lifestyle.
It really is. And it's debating whether, okay, do we want this right now, or is there now if you have a goal that you can accomplish right now, great. That's fine. But we're talking about, okay, if you have a macro goal, what is keeping you from it? One thing, actually, I read this I started following the Elite Stoic. I think that's what it's called. Oh, like they just replied to me. So the Stoic Elite, they follow Tony Robbins, they follow Gary Vee, they follow Jocko, they follow all these guys that I talk about. And this morning, because they post that, I like their page because they post consistently on their Instagram story. And the question of the day for today was, what can you cut out today to live a better life? And I replied because I'm like, I need to be honest, because I'm like, I believe in stoicism to a fault. I really do. So I replied, I think I've said this before, were sugar, artificial sugar specifically. Like that's my nemesis. And I put artificial sugars. I said literally one of my only nemesis, but I'm working on it every day. I'm trying. I really am. And they replied to me, "You'll beat it in no time." And this is a page that has 7,800 followers, and they follow 3,700 people. So for them to respond to one person, they don't even follow me, but they responded to my post. Tying that to Gary Vee, that's what he talks about: replying, engaging, replying, engaging, every single day. Gonzo's girlfriend, she's into like arts and crafts and stuff, and Gonzo's like, hey, she's really good, and he retweeted one of her pictures, she like actual photography picture. I was like, hey, that's pretty good. And by this time when I saw this picture, Gonzo had already told me about like what she's kind of thinking about and whatnot. I was like, she needs to vlog for the next 5 years, take a bunch of pictures, and keep drawing and painting.
Basically, what I'm seeing that becomes more and more common is lifestyle blogs.
Yeah.
People are just posting about their lifestyle, and
That's what I'm doing.
a lot of the
too.
time more focused on certain things, but you do get to see basically if your interest is surfing.
Yeah.
There's someone out there with a lifestyle blog that mainly revolves around surfing, but you get to see other areas of their life, and you know, who knows, you'll find those little golden nuggets
Yeah, right,
everywhere.
right. Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean about, like, you know, I don't know if I brought it up on a podcast, but I remember bringing it up at some point about Generation Z having more in common with people from other countries than people like living next door,
Yeah.
because they're able to better connect with people from everywhere around the world. So they'll be more relatable, or just more alike in some interests, because they're able to connect with those people, not just like on how do I want to say this? Not connect just like in the sense of relating,
Right.
but they can engage with them.
Yep. I'm looking for this post on 8Fact app. After you sent me that one, I started following them because I'm like, there's some very interesting stuff on there.
Dude, I don't want to admit it, but I went back on their timeline like for a while just because it was so interesting.
Yeah.
I love
Well, that's why
stuff like
I'm
that.
looking for one because there's a deal where I'm gonna find it because I'll edit this little piece out, but
Or mention it. I probably read it.
right. Well, it's where they say like there's at least like 9 people like you or like 9% of like meeting someone exactly like you.
Yeah.
There's a percentage, like 6% chance, and I'm trying to find like I think it's
that
6%.
you'll meet someone exactly like you
Yes.
somewhere else in the world. I think that's more likely even now. Like whenever that fact was drawn up,
Yeah.
it's the odds are only gonna get higher.
Especially with of course
The interwebs,
right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
social media.
Connection. Dang, only about 2% of the world has green eyes. So you find a green eyed girl, keep her. How you doing, Luis? You all right?
I'm fine.
Well, you know, it's okay. It's all good. I'm just trying to keep you engaged. But this is, man, it's interesting. I mean, it worked out having this pan out this way. You know, with us 3 today. I'm not gonna find it. I'm gonna leave it out. I'll maybe find it later and just mention it. What about his? Oh, you already said. Do you have like? Okay. Do you have? I guess it's just moving on with the podcast. Do you have any specific things you liked in like that happened in history?
I think World War II,
Okay. Why?
because like there was a bunch of different countries a part of the war, and they all had their own opinions about it, and they all contributed in like different ways.
So did you like the unity of it?
Yeah,
The fact that all these different countries with maybe different ideals were able to come together and help each other out.
yeah, in a way.
Good deal.
Well, have you heard? I don't know if you heard, Brian, but supposedly that like Japan's teaming up with the U.S. for the Pacific. So it's an interesting
No, I've been
thing that's happening.
honestly I've been out of the loop with a
fine.
lot of things,
Yeah, that's fine.
and sort of purposely.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah,
'Cause that's
and
just-
usually I am because I've been totally like trying to just stay off TV. But I think what's been happening since I've been spending more time out in the public, because here at home, dude, we don't have cable. I'll never see CNN, and if we're
Right.
out, you know. But I think because I've been, you know, my Monday through Fridays have been a little more busy, you know, being out and about. So I've been just out, you know, seeing TV through that, you know, through those
Yeah.
channels, literally different places. So one of the things I did see, actually, no, I got that from Twitter, so that's completely wrong. But I think it was on Twitter, probably like Fox News or something. Because I do follow like Fox News. I follow both sides. You know, I follow the dichotomies because it fascinates me. People arguing about stupid stuff. But this particular case where I saw both like sides mention like Japan teaming up with the U.S. for whatever might occur is interesting because that's the whole Pacific scene. You know, we're gonna see what happens there. We've been so focused on the Middle East for the past 17 years, you know, 16 years,
Right.
that that to have the Pacific scene kind of open up again, militaristically or militaries, I guess we'll see what happens. To me, there's a lot of correlations given what your frat brother, my friend, our friend, and then the frat brother who's in the reserve as well. Given their timelines of what things to happen, it's very corollary to what's going on. To me, it makes sense. I haven't heard anybody say it doesn't make sense, but I don't know if people have really thought about it yet. All they're thinking about or talking about maybe is, oh, Trump. I hate Trump, and that to me that's the thing right now is that Trump. Even at night when I heard one of the clients yesterday, I was like, hit it like you're mad. The bag, right? And she's like, oh, if it was Trump, I would. I'm like, well, pretend it's Trump. If that makes you hit it harder, then hit it harder.
Whatever works.
Yeah, whatever works. I don't care. But I just want you to work. Anyways. Oh yeah, super crazy. I'm gonna call it there. Hour and 20. It's pretty cool.
Sounds good.
I'm probably gonna edit the hour and 20 part out because it'll be cut. There's some pieces that we'll leave out, but very healthy conversation that will continue at some point. I know. Actually, next week we're going to the island for the wedding, so we'll see what happens with the podcast. If maybe we'll record it at South Padre.
That could be interesting.
Yeah. So, Luis, I hope you enjoyed the conversation. This will be your first time, hopefully, of many. Final side note I'll make is there's something that Gary Vee said, and no, I think I already said it. I'm just gonna skip out. Anyways, so yeah, Luis, I hope you enjoyed this one of many of hundreds of possibly thousands of episodes that are to come, and we'll see where it goes and continue moving with life and trying to keep learning. And for social media's sake, Brian, what's your social media?
Twitter is Brian Alejandro _ BryanAlejandro _ and on Instagram you can go ahead and follow at the intronaut _ THEINTRONAUT _
Cool. Luis, your social media? I'm just kidding. You're not gonna give your social media. if you have any, it's fine. No, I wouldn't let you anyways. My social media is the same for Instagram and Twitter. It's at Andy Walker _ lead. So ANDYWALKER _ lead, LEAD. And then you can find me on Facebook. Just search Andy Walker. I believe. Let me check it right now, actually, before I check this, because I think I was able to change the Andy Walker lead. I think I was able to put that on the Facebook. I think. Yes, I was. So my Facebook, if you do facebook.com / Andy Walker lead, back to back, no underscore, no nothing, but Andy, capital ANDY, capital W, and then ALKER, and then capital L for the lead, LEAD. So Andy Walker lead is the Facebook, and I'm pretty sure if you type in Andy Walker, I have Acosta now as like my main name or my actual name. So if you put Andy Acosta, I'm pretty sure it'll pop up too. I have that. Go ahead and like my page. I do have my accounts now tied to my artist page, so anything that comes on my personal page will be very delayed. Usually on purpose, but anyways, it's delayed nonetheless. If you want, if you're an instant gratification person at the moment, like the page, Andy Walker, and it's me and I think it's the guys playing guitar. Like me, it's us on stage, anyways. So for now, we'll sign off. And I'm going to leave you with this quote by Paulo. How do you pronounce his last name? Paulo Coelho? Let's say Coelho. So this is a quote. I just read it right now. And I'm just going to leave it on here for the sake of everybody getting a final seed of the day. There are only 4 stories. A love story between 2 people. A love story between 3 people. The struggle for power and the journey. Every single book that is in the bookstore deals with these 4 archetypes. These 4 themes.